All stand and remain standing until the conclusion of the reading of the proclamation. Ladies and gentlemen, the proclamation. All persons having any business before this honourable court now draw nigh. Give your attendance, and you shall be heard. God save the Queen.
Please be seated.
Admission of lawyers. Zainab Alawi.
May it please the court, I move that Zainab Alawi be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Zainab Alawi be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Dominique Brunetta.
May it please the court, I move that Dominique Brunetta be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Dominique Brunetta be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Kin Pang Chan.
May it please the court, I move that King Pang Chan be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let King Pang Chan be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Richard Anthony De Solom.
May it please the court, I move that Richard Anthony De Solom be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Richard Anthony De Solom be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Fiona Ying Deng.
May it please the court, I move that Fiona Ying Deng be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Fiona Ying Deng be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Adelaide Jane Collison Falzon.
May it please the court, I move that Adelaide Jane Collison Falzon be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Adelaide Jane Collison Falzon be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Vishu Garg.
May it please to the court, I move that Vishuga be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Rishi Garg be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Thomas Xavier Gibson.
May it please the court, I move that Thomas Xavier Gibson be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Thomas Xavier Gibson be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Erin Ruth Gordon.
May it please the court, I move that Erin Ruth Gordon be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Erin Ruth Gordon be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Robert Francis Hill Hill.
Registrar. This one, Registrar, could you do it, please? Thank you.
May it please the court, I move that Robert Francis Hill be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Robert Francis Hill be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Katinka Sophia Week Honore.
May it please the court, I move that Katinka Sophia Honaya be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Katinka Sophia Wigonere be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Sarah Elise Horton.
May it please the court, I move that Sarah Elise Horton be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Sarah Elise Horton be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Nurit Hope Rosenthal G.
May it please the honourable court, I move that Nurit Hope Rosenthal G be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Nurit Hope Rosenthal G be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Desiree Petilia Kars Sipeli.
May it please the court, I move that Desiree Petilia Karsipelli be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Desiree Petilia Caspelli be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Jacinta Kate Cazellos.
May it please the court, I move that Jacinta Kate Gazellos be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Jacinta Kate Cazellos be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Andrew Troy Latham.
May it please the court, I move that Andrew Troy Latham be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Andrew Troy Latham be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Jordan Lynn.
May it please the court, I move that Jordan Lynn be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Jordan Lynn be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Lachlan James Alexander McDermott.
May it please the court, I move that Lachlan James Alexander McDermott be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Lachlan James Alexander McDermott be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Jose Edgardo Jr. Navarro.
May it please the court, I move that Jose Edgardo Jr. Navarro be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Jose Edgardo Jr. Navarro be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Emil Obeid.
May it please the court, I move that Emil Obeid be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Emil Obeid be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Jack Lawrence Patrick.
Please the court, I move that Jack Lawrence Patrick be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Jack Lawrence Patrick be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Caitlin Una Pem.
May it please the court, I move that Caitlin Una Pem be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Caitlin Una Pem be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Richard Reynolds.
May it please the court, I move that Richard Reynolds be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Richard Reynolds be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Katie Louise Sakulis.
May it please the court, I move that Katie Louise Sakulis be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Katie Louise Sakulis be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Hidayah Salama.
May it please the court, I move that Hidayah Salama be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Hidayah Salama be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Beatrice Grace Sultan.
Please the court, I move that Beatrice Grace Sultan be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Beatrice Grace Sultan be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Sahana Satisha.
May it please the court, I move that Sahana Satisha be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Sahana Satisha be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Kashal Vijay Sharma.
May it please the court, I move that Kushal Sharma be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Kushal Vijay Sharma be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Akira Singh.
May it please the court, I move that Akira Singh be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Akira Singh be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Madison Rose Summerhays.
May it please the court, I move that Madison Rose Summerhays be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Madison Rose Summerhays be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Kanisile Tashaba Lala.
May it please the court, I move that Kanyisili Chabalala be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Kani Sili Chabalala be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Cassie Valentino.
May it please the court, I move that Cassie Valentino be moved as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Cassie Valentino be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Naga Svefa Babaraju.
May it please the court, I move that Naga Sweta Bamaraju be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Naga Sveta Maharaju be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Adrian Zagami.
May it please the court, I move that Adrian Zagami be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Adrian Zagami be admitted as a lawyer of this court. It will be necessary for the purpose of swearing an oath or making an affirmation that all those being admitted today please stand up and remain in your current places. Could all admittees please stand?
Zainab Alawi. Dominic Brunetta. Kinpang Chan. Richard Anthony de Solon. Fiona Ying Deng. Adelaide Jane Collison Folsom. Rishu Garg. Thomas Xavier Gibson. Erin Ruth Gordon. Robert Francis Hill Hill. Katinka Sophia Wig Honore. Sarah Elise Horton. Nurit Hope Rosenthal G. Desiree Patilia Caspelli. Jacinta Kate Cazellos. Andrew Troy Latham. Jordan Lynn. Lachlan James Alexander McDermott. Jose Edgardo Jr. Navarro. Emil Obeid. Jack Lawrence Patrick. Caitlin Una Pem. Richard Reynolds. Katie Louise Sakulis. Hidayah Salama. Beatrice Grace Sultan. Sahana Satisha. Koshal Vijay Sama. Akira Singh. Madison Rose Summerhays. Kanyasile Tashaba Lala. Cassie Valentino. Naga Svefa Vamaraju. Adrian Zagami. Do you severally swear or declare and affirm that you will truly and honestly conduct yourselves in the practice of a lawyer of the Supreme Court of New South Wales, and that you will faithfully serve as such in the administration of the laws and usages of this state according to the best of your knowledge, skill and ability? Would you please say, "So help me God," or "I do"?
Please be seated. Now that the formal part of the proceedings has ended, I'd like to warmly welcome you to the Supreme Court of New South Wales. Present with me on the bench today to my right is Justice Ward, the Chief Judge of the Equity Division of the Court, and to my left, Justice Hallen, who is a Judge of the Equity Division. Together we constitute the Court that has, in exercise of its jurisdiction, admitted you to practice. We're also delighted to have joining us with us on the bench today Chief Justice Alsop of the Federal Court of Australia. As we gather here today, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. We recognise the long-standing and enduring customs and traditions of Australia's First Nations and acknowledge with deep regret the role our legal system has had in perpetrating many injustices against Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. To all the new lawyers here today, welcome to the legal profession. Today is a day for celebration. You all worked extremely hard to get here, through caffeine-fuelled nights and obscure problem questions, reading countless wafer-thin pages of textbook, and more cases than you can ever hope to remember. Rest assured, for those of you with a bibliophobia, that is a fear of running out of reading material. That is a fear that will never materialise. You have entered the world of eggshell skulls, encountered a mysterious reasonable person, and have understood that the Constitution does mean a lot more than just the vibe of the thing. In becoming a lawyer, you have today joined a centuries-old profession with ancient origins. The custom of advocates swearing an admission oath dates back to the 12th century. This court first admitted lawyers to practice in 1824, and by 1830 the names of lawyers were entered onto rolls in this state. You have now become part of this tradition almost 200 years later. Perhaps for some of you, or more likely for your family and friends, that's how long it feels that you've been studying. On that note, I'm pleased to welcome those with you today or watching on the live stream. For many of you, the support of your family and friends will have been invaluable. No doubt they've also been, from time to time, on the receiving end of your finely polished skills of argument and persuasion. I hope you take the time to thank them today. The oath or affirmation you have made today is a serious one and deserves solemn regard. Whether you work in private practice, at the bar, in a community legal centre or an entirely different field, you should be known for your honesty, your integrity and your commitment to justice. It is in acknowledgement of this weighty responsibility that we observe today's unique formalities, including the moving of lawyers, swearing of oaths, and even our somewhat unusual choice of fashion. I do recall on one occasion some years ago, a young member of the audience asked if we were doing Santa photos after the ceremony. I was very sorry to disappoint. However, although we mark this occasion with formality and tradition, not everything in the legal profession remains unchanging. You'll be unsurprised to hear that last year we had to adapt quite a bit. COVID-19 meant a rapid shift to increased use of virtual courtroom setups and technology to ensure that access to justice continued in the midst of a pandemic. Now, things didn't always go smoothly, as those with me on the bench can undoubtedly attest to. There have been real difficulties to grapple with in terms of open justice, effective communication and fairness to participants. And occasionally a lawyer might even get stuck behind a Zoom kitten filter. But for all the challenges we faced, the impetus is greater than ever before for us to prioritise flexibility and accessibility. Better use of technology and increased working from home arrangements have profound implications for how our legal system interacts with many people, including those in rural and remote areas, those with a disability, medical conditions or carers' responsibilities. As the newest members of the profession, you're at the forefront of innovation in the law and have a unique opportunity to see through changes so that justice is done openly and equitably. There are, of course, other changes that deserve attention. When we think of the diversity of the legal profession, we encounter the duality that we have come very far and that much still needs to be done. Though women were originally not permitted to practice, since 2018, women have made up more than half of all solicitors with a practising certificate in New South Wales and currently make up 63% of solicitors under the age of 30. Women occupy many of the most senior positions in the law, including, of course, the Chief Justice of Australia. However, women include to face challenges of representation, including amongst judges of this court and, for example, amongst barristers in speaking roles in the High Court. On the other hand, it is heartening to see that the local court of New South Wales has almost achieved gender parity amongst magistrates, but we must not be complacent about these issues. There are other noticeable diversity concerns that we must face head-on. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and people from diverse cultural backgrounds continue to be alarmingly underrepresented in the legal profession, and particularly within the judiciary and the ranks of senior counsel. We must also be alert to barriers to the profession for people from less privileged backgrounds. Law should not be a profession for the wealthy, and the idea that students may be dissuaded from studying law by the cost of a law degree, which this year has again increased, or because of other systemic issues, is troubling. Not just this, but we will only achieve a truly diverse profession when barriers to advancement are broken down and people from different backgrounds are properly supported in a collegiate and inclusive environment free from harassment and discrimination. These issues are fundamental to a just and transparent legal system and to the legitimacy of the rule of law. We need diverse representation amongst advocates and judges so that all people who become involved in our justice system can be properly heard and fairly engaged with by a system reflective of our broader community. Despite these challenges, there is real scope for change. There is far greater diversity of background amongst junior lawyers than those who have been around for as long as me. And you only need to look around this courtroom at your fellow admittees and then have a glance at the pictures on the wall to see that this is so. You are in a unique position as new lawyers who are entering the profession at a time when more than ever your words and actions are having an impact for good. You are being heard and taken seriously when you agitate to correct injustices, whether it be speaking out about unsustainable working cultures, sexual harassment or bullying within the profession, unfair laws or systemic failings affecting our society's most vulnerable. I urge you to continue to speak out for these things. They do matter. You are the future of the profession and will steer the direction that it will take. As a lawyer, you'll also need to make difficult ethical decisions at times. With regard to our personal characteristics, lawyers have been the butt of jokes for centuries. Some would say, of course, there are only a handful of lawyer jokes. The rest are true stories. Jokes aside, you must use the tools you have developed to think critically and not compromise on your fundamental duties to the court and the administration of justice and other ethical duties you must uphold. Now that you're lawyers, you can get paid to argue instead of just arguing for free. Of course, there's a lot more to it than that. You're an advisor, a problem solver, a mediator, and an advocate for the marginalised. As you go about your day-to-day work, remember that you're not merely dealing with the law in a vacuum as a series of abstract concepts, but law as it applies to people's lives. For this reason, you must try to deliver legal services competently and fearlessly with courtesy and integrity. Justice Gagler, before he was a High Court judge, once said, "You must be prepared to give the same answer to the same questions for the same reasons, no matter who asks the question or for what purpose or in what context the asking may occur." This is foundational to upholding the rule of law. For those of you who will practice law, the way you communicate information to others will have profound consequences for access to justice. For a non-lawyer, law is often incomprehensible. One of your roles as a lawyer will be to make law accessible to others, sometimes by deciphering legal complexities, other times by deciphering poor legal drafting, and sometimes both. One thing you will regrettably strike throughout your career is legislation which seems carefully crafted with the sole object of ensuring that no one can possibly understand it. Your task is not just to understand it, but to explain it clearly to those whose rights and interests are affected by it. As lawyers, we must not keep the law locked up as something knowable only to us. A client reading your advice should be empowered to understand your meaning, not mystified and confused. So be clear and concise in your writing and your speaking. Plain English is powerful. Consider, do I really need to say aforementioned or herewith? Must I sprinkle in that Latin phrase? Should I really use a multitude of split infinitives, double negatives, tautologies and wordy clauses that take up a whole page? The answer to that question, I think, is obviously no. The best advocates make their points clearly and simply and succinctly. Now, I regret to say that some of the most experienced lawyers and judges from time to time could use that reminder, but please don't pick up their bad habits. I also want to speak about failure. I'd not be surprised that there are quite a few overachievers and perfectionists in the room today. Even so, at various points of your career, you will make mistakes, some minor, some more serious. When you do make mistakes, your commitment to honesty, integrity, and the administration of justice means that you must take responsibility, correct what you can, and learn from those errors. You must fail at times in order to grow. What is important is that you try not to make the same mistake twice. I myself have made many mistakes over the year, too many that I care to remember. I don't need to remember them because my colleagues are always willing to remind me about them. But even as Chief Justice, my decisions have on occasion been successfully appealed to the High Court. When that occurs, I simply remind myself through gritted teeth that it's really not a rumour that the High Court is infallible. But in times, even dissenting opinions have become the law. Finally, I want to emphasise that your mental health is extremely important. This may sound unexpected at this type of ceremony, but the law is not everything. There may be times when you feel overwhelmed, burnt out or distressed. If you do, you should not be afraid to seek professional help or to take a step back when you need to. Also remember that the law is a collegiate profession and in times of difficulty, the support of your peers will prove invaluable. I found that throughout my practising career. Although you might find it hard to believe, I was admitted quite a long time ago. I lost my first case and I lost many more after that. Throughout my 35 years in practice, I could always count on the other barristers in my chambers to share my disappointment, the unfairness of the verdict, the sly tactics of opposing counsel, and most often, I regret to say, the obtuseness of the judge or judges before whom I was appearing. Now, I hasten to add I don't include any of my fellow judges on the bench in that comment, of course. Finally, on behalf of all the judges of the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice of the Federal Court who is here with us today, and I once again congratulate you on your admission and welcome you to the legal profession. The Court will now adjourn.
All stand. This honourable court is now adjourned. God save the Queen.